I believe that he's gay.
That's how he identifies.
How do you identify?
Actually, I identify as,
Oh, here we go. It's that long plethora of, oh my God.
Wait for it.
I will.
Sometimes you'd wonder why wokies bother to speak anymore. Every time, they fall flat at the face of common sense and logic. Who cares, though? Their utter foolishness is entertainment to us. Like, share, comment, or else you'd be a wokie.
Yes, that's right. Men and women are a completely different thing. This is true. Have you ever met a man or a woman? They're completely different.
It's a completely different thing. You have to say you're a cat. It's not a thing. It's genders. It's not saying you're
Okay,
a woman.
why is that? I don't understand. Why? Okay, let me ask you this. Okay, I won't ask you how old. I will ask you how old you are. Okay, because you're young enough that it's probably not insulting to ask you. So.
I'm 22, so I'm probably only naive, right?
No. Why aren't you 60? Why aren't you 60? Why can't you identify as 60? What is the problem with you identifying as 60?
It's the same as gender. You can't just...
You're right. Age is significantly less important than gender. You can't magically change your gender. You can't magically change your sex. You can't magically change your age.
legally change it. People recognize
You can't legally change your age, by the way.
Obviously, you can change your name, you can change your sex, you can change your identity.
Just because you can do things legally doesn't mean that they are correct.
At least get your facts right before embarrassing yourself that way.
So my response to you is then a question of what is the purpose of knowing another person's sexual identity or purpose?
You ask me, why do you even care? What's the purpose of knowing someone's biological sex? Well, for starters, because we have civil rights specifically for women in the United States. We have special bathrooms for women, we have special sports leagues for women, we have all sorts of special places and rights and privileges for women that are not for men. So if now some men, people who at the very least appear to be men, are claiming a right to go into those women's bathrooms, then we either have to abolish all of the special rights and privileges that have existed for women for all of human history and are enshrined in our law, or they need to explain to me how those men are actually women. And they can't do the latter, and I'm not willing to do the former, and I don't think women across this country are willing to do the former, even if a few people have been so ideologically blinded that they would give in to this kind of an absurdity.
What is the purpose of knowing one's sexual identity? Doesn't that question go against the warped logic of the trans movement?
The government, we shouldn't trust all these people, and I'm curious because I noticed in your speech, when you're speaking, you commit a lot of logical fallacies. And I can give you some examples such as composition, division, ad hominems, and, many, many others. And I learned about these in my rhetoric class because my class, which was very, very Republican driven.
Because we have a lot of people that are waiting.
Yeah, of course, no problem. I just want to say, why should we trust you? What's the point if you're going to commit all these fallacies? Why should we believe in you?
Okay, well, if you think that anything that I have said today, just try to stick to the facts and don't focus too much on what you perceive to be logical fallacies. Just go look up Margaret Sanger, go look up Lyndon Baines Johnson, go look up the things that I'm telling you, and let me tell you that if you look that up and what you find out is that I completely lied today, then you shouldn't trust me. The reason why I'm standing up here is because I'm confident that I am sharing with people the truth. And the reason why I'm still up here, by the way, despite the fact that the entire media, an entire Democratic establishment, an entire BLM nation that was built overnight has been against me. The reason why my audience continues to grow is because when you are for truth and you are for God, who can be against you? You're gonna win.
Why did she say all that not to make any sense in the end? Nice job using those words she learnt in class, though.
She wasn't ready.
Someone gets rich doesn't mean someone gets poor.
Yes, it does.
Explain
In
that to
this
me.
society, it does.
Explain that to me. When you
Someone
bought
gets richer.
your hat, who got poor?
The people who made the hat.
Well, they voluntarily contributed their labor
they
and
did
they
not.
got paid for it.
No, they did not.
They didn't?
There's workers in other countries who are enslaved to make things that I'm wearing right now.
Then why would you buy it?
Because there's no other options in our capitalist country. There are no other options in our capitalist
That's
country.
totally and factually incorrect. Make your own clothes.
There aren't very many options for that.
Well, so what you're trying to say is you outsource your goods and services in a capital voluntary because you don't want to spend the time to go make your own clothes.
Basing an entire economic system on capital, on wealth, is not the best for each person in the world.
So you would want to live in a communal society, essentially. So why don't you go live like the Amish right now and go do it because they live in a communal society?
That's not the point.
I'm sure she thought she was making actual sense. I'd like to see her make her own clothes.
Do you want to tell us what is the wage gap?
Well, it's where women are being paid less.
For what?
Working?
First off, it's been illegal to pay women less for the same job since 1963. Is so prevalent, you would see more people getting fined, sued, and companies shut down. So if it was the case, for example, that you could pay a woman, say, 30% less than a man to do the exact same job, companies would exclusively hire women. What is the primary interest of a business? So As a business owner or as a corporation, if you can save 30%,
At least get your facts right. People, wokies again defying logic.
You think it's fine to say to religious people that they are prohibited from gathering outside, wearing a mask, socially distant. They can't do it. But if you want to come and protest and defund the police, if you want to support that, that's fine. You can gather en masse, person to person, close up, thousands of people. That's okay. That's your position.
Senator, that is not my position.
It was your position. It's what you argued.
I did not write these orders. What I
You
said.
defended it in court. You just articulated to me what I take to be your position. Why were the restrictions that you defended struck down as discriminatory? Why were they?
She was left utterly dumbfounded. We need more and more of this.
How many genders are there?
2.
There are 2 genders. Wow. So you don't believe in transgenders at all?
Well, I think there are.
Whoa. There are 2 genders.
Well, it's totally.
No, why do you say well? You've literally just launched this huge defense of transgenders. Now you've eradicated it. There are 2 genders. You mean male and female, right?
There's gender fluidity, fluid between what? Between different identities, which is what I
You see how difficult this is, though?
But it is difficult.
Typical of wokies to contradict themselves again and again. They never learn.
I didn't know that I was gonna be talking to a bunch of illiterate people who don't know how to read.
You're literally 15. What do you know?
You know how to read?
Yes, I do know how to read.
Name 10 books.
Well, I read Game of Thrones. I'm obsessed with like the Twilight series. Game of Thrones, the series.
What's the book called? It's not called Game of Thrones.
What book did you just say before?
It's just trying to come up with a bunch of nonsense and she can't name any actual books.
Oh, shut up, kid.
Solid proof that wokies can't actually read.
That's true. I do have an honorary PhD.
Yeah. So essentially, what are your qualifications for arguing that college is a scam, or really having any economical knowledge at all? Likely the vast majority of the students here know more than you about economics as a whole.
Okay, so no, hold on. It's okay, guys. It's okay. Who's Milton Friedman?
I have no idea. That's not important to this conversation.
Who is Ludwig von Mises?
These are all probably economists, and they're the same.
Yeah.
The same
Who is
thing.
John Maynard Keynes?
Okay, obviously I know who Keynes is.
Oh, obviously, yeah.
He's the most famous economist of all
Well,
time.
you don't know Milton Friedman?
I mean, that's an economist.
Okay. How about Murray Rothbard?
It's another economist.
F.A. Hayek?
I don't know who that is.
Well, then you just came here and insulted my intelligence. You're right. I barely made it through community college because I was too busy. I don't know, starting a national youth movement with hundreds of thousands of members.
Hey, hold on, though. Hold on.
What was he trying to prove again?
Can I ask you what you identify as?
Identify?
Ethnicity?
I identify as an American.
Not an African American?
I didn't get elected into my position because of the color of my skin or do any race baiting stuff that...
What would it cost to shut down identity baiting once and for all? I'm ready to pay the price.
What do you have to say to the trans students on this campus who feel actively victimized by your presence here?
Life's tough. Get a helmet, man. I'm too pregnant for this. Next question. Seriously, somebody just give out free hugs or something and I can't be your mommy, okay? I'm too pregnant.
Maybe a free hug is what these wokies need after all.
Ma'am, or sir, I'm not sure. I didn't misgender you, did I?
Oh, please, go yourself.
Oh, that's not very ladylike.
Oh, now you're misgendering me.
Oh, well, what are you exactly?
None of your business. What are you?
But you said I misgendered you. If I don't know what you are, how can I not misgender you?
Good question. What really are you?
Government, right? I believe
You don't. No government. So you're an anarchist.
Yes. I believe in voluntary hierarchy and democracy.
What's preventing you from doing what the Amish do? Get off the grid and just go live like that right now.
Well, the Amish are religiously excluded.
No, forget the religious
Okay,
component.
well,
but the Amish are a great example.
Incredibly difficult to just pick up everything that you have, leave, and go into.
A good suggestion. Wokies should create a Wokie land and leave the rest of us with common sense.
And you can identify as a woman. I don't know why there is such an issue.
Anyone can, right?
I don't see a problem with it.
Literally put the hand up and say I'm a woman. Okay, why can't I identify as a black lesbian?
Well, firstly, I mean, it was
I'm serious. I'm serious. If I can identify as anything without any need to prove I'm actually what that is, why can't I on International Women's Day say I'm Piers Morgan, I'm a black lesbian?
I think taking it to a kind of absurd.
I think
we're
that's
talking
what,
about quite a
with
strong
respect, I think that
physical
you'd already opened the absurdity door by saying it is limitless. You can do what you like. Anyone can say, I'm a woman. How many genders are there?
It never gets any more absurd than this. I'd like to identify as a 1,000-year-old dragon.
As a non-binary person, what do you have to tell me about my identity? Because I know for a fact I'm not confused.
Okay, next question. Great statement. That's a statement. That's a statement. Okay, you know your identity, you're not confused. Congratulations, sweetheart. Thank you very much for your statement.
People who aren't confused don't have to say they're not confused.
Who's a woman?
What is it? That's a stupid question, dude. That's a dumb question.
Not a trick question. What is a woman?
Who identifies as a woman?
You can't answer the question with the question. Yeah, define a woman without saying woman. You're in college, paying for an education. What is a woman?
How about you talk to someone with media training?
Don't need media training. It's not a trick. What is a woman? You can't answer the question with it. It's the college kids of America going hundreds of thousands of dollars into debt who think it's a trick question.
The question remains unanswerable to the wokies.
Don't have a uterus. You don't get to make a decision.
Did you just tell me I don't have a uterus?
Uterus. It will never happen to you. It will never happen to you. Are you telling me that you have a uterus?
Well, you couldn't tell me I don't if I claimed it. My pronouns are uterus, owner, male.
Since we're all identifying as anything anyway.
In what sense is our society male-dominated?
The fact that the vast majority of wealth is owned by men, the vast majority of capital is owned by men. Women do more unpaid labor.
A huge proportion of people who are seriously disaffected are men. Most people in prison are men. Most people who are on the street are men. Most victims of violent crime are men. Most people who commit suicide are men. Most people who die in wars are men. People who do worse in school are men. Where's the dominance here precisely? What you're doing is you're taking a tiny substrata of hyper-successful men and using that to represent the entire structure of Western society. There's nothing about that that's vaguely appropriate.
Now that's something to think about.
White person do that a black person can't do.
Black applicants to jobs are 50% less likely to get jobs when they have a black-sounding name.
That's not even close to being true. That's not even close to being true.
That is a literal...
In fact, it's the opposite.
I'm not going to argue your experience. I'm not going to know.
See, now you have to listen to him under your rules because a black person is going to say you're wrong.
I am. He can say I'm wrong. I read your...
My name's Keemon Dixon. I have a really black name. Please tell me how 50% of my internships have been denied when I've worked for Senator Mike Lee, Mayor Trent Stack, Senator Mike Schultz.
Hold on.
I've worked for Congressman Burgess Owens. I've actually worked on his campaign. I've worked on the campaigns of John Huntsman Jr. Please tell me how my black experience and my black name has not given me Go ahead.
So...
Now that was an interesting turn of events. How does he plan to get out of that one?
None of these opinions are actually accepted in academia and haven't been for over 70 years. Sent this here on Twitter.
Well, okay, so the notion that they haven't been accepted for over 70 years is a bizarre one, considering they were accepted until about 5 minutes ago. And the basic idea that male and female do not exist runs counter to all mammalian biology, all of it, not just human. Are we to suggest that gender and sex are different in walruses? How does this work exactly? Like, are they different in bears? Anytime you have all mammalian reproduction is rooted in the idea that there's a sexual dichotomy between male and female. To obscure that with all sorts of semantic word games about how you feel subjectively has no bearing on whether male and female are categories that exist. And if you're trying to define male and female with reference to any subjective category that cannot be identified by any metric whatsoever other than how you feel today, I challenge whether that is scientific or whether that is merely a self-perception that is being guided by a political agenda.
Welp, that must have hurt.
For some reason, something has happened in your life. Maybe you need therapy. He doesn't think you need therapy. But something has happened that, like, somebody wrecked you. Because the way that you view men is so sad.
I do not hate all men at all. I know that there are a lot of good men out there. I think the ones...
But they're not coming for you. The good men aren't coming for you, and so I want you to, in the most loving way, I want you to look at yourself and be like, why are the good men not coming for me?
Yeah, right? Like, what the hell?
You ran your mouth all freaking night.
They're turning on you.
Sat there for 5-6 hours and listened to her.
Hold on, I just don't understand why someone who is single is sitting here talking mostly for 6 hours about relationships to women who are happily married. Like, if you're talking about the authority on relationships, wouldn't you ask the people in the room that are happily married?
Facts.
Wait, hold on. Guys, you bullied her. You guys bullied
We bullied.
We bullied her?
Yes, the perfect thing to do is run and hide.
What I'm hearing is this intense discussion around self-hatred and when you're in a bigger body. And I wanted to ask people down the front there, you who's 20, is your life better? Are you happier? Is everything better now that you're slightly smaller than you were before?
Absolutely. And I'm not a little bit smaller, I'm a lot smaller. I did do research into everything. I can still have kids, and that may not have happened if I had stayed the size I was. My question to you is, can you honestly say that you are 100% happy and healthy? Like, you have no medical conditions whatsoever, you have no problems at all with your health?
It's really interesting that I feel like I need to justify my existence in this room.
No, hang on a minute.
Of course she's happier. She doesn't have thousands of pounds weighing her down.
I'm not looking to argue with you. I just want to know about the ideology as to why you think that a woman shouldn't have the right to her own bodily autonomy in regards to abortion.
A woman should have the right to her own bodily autonomy, but not to kill another human. But as far as the idea that I'm like sitting awake at night thinking, how do I control women's bodies? No, not really, not at all, actually. The thing that I do care about is the preservation of human lives. I don't have an argument that pro-choicers are ignoring a premise. That's fine. You're allowed to ignore a premise or think a premise that I'm giving is wrong. It turns out that the vast majority of women for literally all of human existence have engaged in childbearing and rearing, and it has not, in fact, ruined their lives. In fact, married women with children are, by poll data, the happiest women in America.
All right, thank you for the straw man fallacy. Thank you.
I missed what she actually said. What was it? Straw man?
Straw man fallacy, I think.
You can't just shout straw man and run away. Do you want to come back and explain why it was a straw man, or no? Okay, you're just going to run away.
She did run away. I'm sure she regretted speaking up.
Does it bother you that there's no prominent African Americans in the White House? It is an administration that has more white men than past administration, but that doesn't bother you. You don't think that diversity is important?
No, not at all. I think that we have to stop believing that diversity is the color of people's skin.
Am I a racist white liberal?
Well, let's go back to an early part of this conversation where you said to me, are you concerned about the color in the White House? Why would you ask me that question?
Because you're bringing a whole group of young African American leaders to the White House.
The racism and the conversations that we have.
So you're saying I'm a racist?
You haven't let me finish my statement. You keep cutting me off. The emphasis that you place is always on having a discussion about race. Okay, you guys are insistent on having a conversation about race and telling us that we should see and implying that we should see race everywhere, and I don't agree with that. If you don't look at me according to the color of my skin, you would simply ask me how I thought that Trump was doing as a president. But instead, you try to drum up a conversation that's surrounded by race by asking me, are there enough black people in the White House?
Turns out the wokies are actually the racists.
Are transgender people welcome in Canada now that the Conservative Party, it's policy not to let them use the bathroom of their choice and also to limit their healthcare options as minors?
That is, the answer, of course, is that everybody's welcome in Canada, and your question is factually wrong. I encourage you to actually read the policies instead of spreading disinformation. We need less disinformation and more honesty and truth-telling. And your readers are suffering a very big disservice when you spread disinformation. Thank you.
The wokies never read anything, but they argue about everything.
I was just going to ask if you see the irony in your own propaganda in the Constitution on your brainwash tour. Having the explanations here because you don't believe the reader is smart enough to understand the language is kind of propaganda.
Well, no, so do you know who that audience is for?
For people who can't read it.
Yeah, that's a Constitution for third graders.
Yeah, why are you handing it out to college students?
Let's test your knowledge. Don't open it up.
Right.
What is the 10th Amendment? Okay, let's get easier. What's the 4th Amendment?
Isn't that the No Quartering Act?
No, that's the 3rd Amendment. How many articles are there in the U.S. Constitution?
There's 8 articles.
7.
7.
What is Article 3 of the U.S. Constitution?
I just want to ask.
No, but I'm just saying, you came here, guns a-blazing.
Yeah.
You do not know more than a 3rd grader about the U.S. Constitution.
If you don't see that.
Yeah, I actually know it. You should keep it.
He walked straight into that one.
You're wearing a belt. Is that belt from leather or is that an artificial?
Yeah, it's vegan leather, yeah.
Okay, but it's leather.
Yeah, it's not someone's skin.
So it's actually an artificial product. That's the question I'm asking.
Yeah, no one was shot in the head for my belt. Vegan leather, so it's a synthetic material, and no one was shot in the head.
So
and
that
it's
bit
not
of
someone
synthetic
else's skin.
material you've got, that produced as much CO2 as driving my car from here to Darwin.
Can I see the scientific resource?
Go to WHO, the United Nations WHO website. That will actually show you that for every 500 grams of synthetic material created, it produces as much CO2 as driving 2,000 kilometers.
Vegan leather? What is even that?
You feel if Usain Bolt suddenly identified as a woman?
that's a ridiculous question.
Oh,
and you know
why?
this. Come on, that's
Why?
silly. Because you can't wake up tomorrow morning and decide that you're a woman and start competing.
Literally what Leah Thomas has done.
It takes 2 years. In the UK, it takes 2 years
It takes
to be
1 year
approved by
to qualify
two
in
doctors and you get a
athletics, right?
certificate.
So Usain Bolt could potentially, within a year, with a bit of reduced testosterone treatment, he could sprint against women.
A huge reduction in testosterone.
Yeah. It makes no difference to body mass or size or power.
But it would
or
change.
speed.
It would alter everything.
So would you be fine with that?
If he suddenly did, if that's.
You respect his right to be a woman. It's not ridiculous. It is ridiculous, but not for the reasons you think. Because it could happen, and you think it's fair.
That's obscene.
Now this wokie sees how ridiculous her argument is.
The way that they want to identify and respect the way that they want to present themselves to the world.
Bronte, I would like to identify, I do identify actually, as the correct person on this issue of abortion. I identify as being correct and more correct than you on this issue. And I would just ask that you accept and affirm my identity. Do you?
Well, you are not a medical professional, and abortion and pregnancy is a
sorry,
medical
my
concern. That's not your identity.
That is my I promise you, that's my identity. I promise you
That's very different from your sexual and gender identity.
How so? What I'm talking here involves the mind. I mean, don't you think? I'm not just talking about my gonads or something like that. I'm not just talking about my sexual appetites or desires. I'm talking about my mind, my capacity for reason, my judgment here.
That should give her something to actual think about.
What gender do you think you are?
I'm a male.
Maybe I think you're a woman.
No, legally I'm a male. It says on my driver's license that I'm a male.
What if I said I don't believe you?
It doesn't matter.
What gender do you think I am?
I would assume you're female.
See, you're making assumptions.
Yes.
I identify as non-binary.
Respectfully, it doesn't matter.
It does matter.
What pronoun should I use?
You should use they, them pronouns.
What if I don't?
If you don't, I would consider that disrespectful, and that's actually an act of violence to intentionally misgender someone.
Here we come to the issue. You just said that's an act of violence. That means it's an actionable offense. That means it's a crime. No idea how many pronouns there are. We can never know how many pronouns there are. And to not use a proper pronoun is an act of violence against them. Did you ask my pronouns before you sat down?
No, I didn't ask your pronouns.
You just talked about me being privileged. You understand? No one goes around asking pronouns before they speak with people.
Wokie's falling at the face of logic yet again.
Would you support white-only dormitories?
Everybody has a choice.
So I think white-only and black-only anything is evil and wrong. That's why I hate critical theory and critical race theory, because when it's put in practice, you start to discriminate people based on race. So we're now south of the Mason-Dixon line in North Carolina. We did a lot of work to get rid of segregation in this country. Why are you trying to bring it back?
What work?
The Civil Rights Act of 1964.
In this state?
Yeah, actually in this state. Are there black-only bathrooms out there I'm unaware of, or white-only bathrooms?
Nah.
Right. A lot of work was done in this state.
Your face is small.
What a sore loser.
Hello.
What do you have to say to the trans students on this campus who actively feel victimized by your presence here today?
Life's tough. Get a helmet, man. I'm too pregnant for this. Next question.
Imagine being so out of touch that someone's presence victimizes you.
I just have one quick, can you come back for 1 second? Because this is an important question. You said you're an EMT.
Yes.
Okay, if you're responding to a health emergency. Biological male, somebody with a penis, is having a medical emergency. And they say to you, I think I'm having a miscarriage. Would you check them to see if they're having a miscarriage? Would you consider that a possibility for them?
Silence does speak louder than words.
Brutally every year, just
You've
human
never
feed
visited
consumption.
my place.
How do you know?
Because if you had, you'd know you're talking a load of... For a start, we don't, our animals.
Yes, you used euphemisms such as artificial insemination, which
I
is
don't
great.
use artificial insemination. I run my bucks with my herd. My bucks get the girls when the girls are in season, and it's their choice, nature's choice. We allow our kids to stay on their mother. We only take the excess milk. So you're talking a load of shit.
But you're making profit from animals, right?
I'm
They're
making
commodities to you.
No,
You
I
have
sell
ownership
their
over
milk
them.
so that they can get food.
What was the point again?
I find it really unsatisfying when you talk about gender and being like male or female, as just reducing it down to chromosomes. Do you feel as if there's like a really important like social aspect to like being a man, you know?
If you were to ask me what makes a good man or a useful man, I would give you a description that would include social categories like protecting your family, going out and earning. But
nothing like chromosomes.
In the end, if you have to ask for a definition of male or female, what you're talking about is the most irreducible form of this is the biology, which is why you can uncover a body from 30,000 years ago and a scientist can tell you whether it is a male or a female without ever knowing how that person lived.
It really is just that simple. You made it to the end of the video. We hope you didn't lose any brain cells listening to those wokies speak. See you in the next video.